What is up, amazing and beautiful people? So today is going to be a very cool stream, uh, because we're going to be talking about mental health and dysphoria and a whole bunch of other stuff, which I've been dealing with a lot. Um, so just in case anyone here hasn't seen my streams before, I am Bryn. I run the trans server, which stands for Trans Radical Antifa Nation. Which started out basically the way the server started and the way the community started was because I was extremely dysphoric and I started the community in an effort to help others. Because whenever I'm feeling extremely upset, that is what I do to try and help or to try and feel better is I help other people. And my camera isn't focusing super well, which is very annoying. There we go. Okay. Hi, Evie. You amazing, amazing person. So, yeah. Um, Before we get started, I just want to give a few updates. Why is my camera still not focusing? Hello. And boop. Sometimes that fixes it for some reason. Oh, come on. And click. And I am totally not a boomer. Totally not a boomer. Boop. Okay. That should work. Okay. Cool. Um, so a few updates. So some of y'all who watch some of my past streams may know that my cat Michael has been extremely sick here recently. He is doing significantly better. We had a minor panic yesterday where we thought he wasn't going to make it, but he seems to, oh, hello, seems to be pulling through. Hey, Quetzal. And now I got two babies. You're just going to sit on your sister like that, really? She doesn't seem to mind. She's purring. So he's doing a lot better now. Hopefully he's gonna pull through. Dealing with the mental stress of all of that has made it so that I'm not really focusing on things like folding my laundry and getting it put up and washing it as much as I should. So after the stream, I'm going to be doing a lot of self-care today. Doing a lot of laundry, mowing the lawn, well, getting things set up so that I can mow the lawn. I'm probably going to do that tomorrow. So, let's talk about mental health. So, again, though I do work medical, I am not a psychologist, I am not a therapist, I am not anything like that. So, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am not especially trained, I am not a specialist, nothing like that, okay? So, mental health is hard to deal with, especially, oh, hi Anna, third cat. Um, Especially whenever you're trans. Because we got a whole host of other things we got to deal with our dysphoria. And there goes Aradia to go follow her aunt. Um, Maintaining your mental health is super important for a variety of reasons. Um, on top of the fact that it just makes you happier to take care of yourself, there's also the fact that maintaining your mental health helps you take care of everything else. Whenever I am happier and I'm not dealing with a whole bunch of stuff, eating is a lot easier. My eating disorders are much easier to manage. I'm able to get a lot more done around the house. I am much more productive. My dysphoria is significantly lessened. Basically, what I've learned over the years is that it's kind of like a vicious cycle no matter which direction you go in whenever it comes to mental health. If you start going into the negative, it's going to feed into itself and it's going to keep going more and more into the negative. If you go into the positive, it's going to feed into itself and it's going to go more and more into the positive. And so I've had to learn various tricks over the years to kind of trick myself into stopping the negative cycle and switching it into a positive one, which is difficult. And again, dysphoria feeds into that. Dysphoria itself can be a hard stop that stops the positive cycle and basically tries to force me back into the negative cycle. Um, Sorry, brain fart. I do want to talk a little bit about. I've been feeling that. So yeah, it really is hard to switch out. I'd like to take a second to talk about my dysphoria and how it affects my mental health and ways that I've learned to kind of deal with that over the years. So, I was talking to Meredith this morning. Meredith is by far one of my best friends, and she and I talk often. Well, this morning I was really worried about my hair and like my facial hair, my stubble, my body hair, and just how gross it is and stuff like that. And Meredith pointed out that she can't see it. It's not being picked up by my webcam. It's not being picked up by the way I'd have my light set up. You know, it's not really something that can be seen very easily, if at all. And in addition to that, these streams that I do are for other people like me, other trans folk, or other LGBT allies. So they're not going to see that stubble, that hair, and judge me for it, you know? And while talking to her, I thought about this thing. So I'm autistic, of course. I'm the whole stereotype. Um, and something that I learned at a younger age was that it's a lot more apparent to me than it is to anyone else. The stubble that I have, this hair that's on my arms, you know, the way my everything sits on my spine, it's a lot more apparent to me than it is to anyone else, Whenever I walk into the store and I see a person, I'm not sitting here thinking, oh, do they have stubble? Oh, do they have arm hair? Oh, all of this other stuff. Yeah, exactly. Self-criticism is always the harshest. Um, I'm not thinking of any of that. And on top of that, I feel very fat, even though I know I don't look it because I work out. And I always feel like my body has this super weird divot. Like there are the boobs, comes down to my stomach, it dips a little bit in, and then there's this sudden blah as it gets to like some of my lower stomach. And I was walking home from work Sunday night, and I felt so self-conscious. And then I passed a window that had my reflection in it. And for me, I had spent like several minutes fidgeting with my belt, with my pants, trying to get it to look normal for me to not look like I had been poured into my jeans and everything. And then I walked by this window and I looked in, saw the reflection of me, but it didn't register as my reflection. I thought it was another person for a second. And I thought in my head, wow, I wish I could be as skinny as she is. And I felt frustrated. Like, oh, why can't I look like that? And it was only like a couple of steps afterwards that I realized that's a window. I literally just saw myself and thought, God, why can't I look like that? And it just had this huge moment, like it felt like I had been punched in the brain. Like it felt weird. Um, yeah. And it kind of made me think, like, you know what? That stomach bulge down there ain't really as noticeable as I think it is. Ow. Hitting myself in the head with my mic. It's not really as big as I think it is. It's not as noticeable. It's not a big deal. But here I was beating myself up over against it, you know? And I thought for a little bit about like everyone I passed on the street, everyone that I saw at work, all these other nurses that I work with. And I thought about their stomachs, and I thought, crap, I can't think of a single one of them in regards to their stomach. I don't remember any of their stomach. I don't think about that. Even the ones that I know are like big nurses that are overweight. That's never once crossed into my mind, you know? And it made me feel a little bit more confident. Like, you know what? It's not really a big deal. It's not. If anyone is noticing it, then oh well, it happens, but most people aren't. And the people who I care about aren't going to say anything about it, and they're not going to judge me for it because they get it, you know? Especially because, like, yeah, I totally get that. I assume you are Cherry. So, hi, Cherry, and I get that. Um, Back whenever I was a guy, I weighed just over 300 pounds, and I ate all of my problems away, and I was an alcoholic. So, yeah, I get it. And I've come a long way since then. I've been transitioning for less than a year, and I'm under 200 pounds. Like, I've lost a ton of weight. I am a lot healthier. Um, but yeah, dysphoria really does just, it makes you focus on yourself, you know? And I'm constantly having these weird thoughts of, oh, I'm so hairy. Oh, I'm so ugly. Oh, I'm not walking like a girl. Oh, I don't sound girly enough. You know, all this other stuff. And it makes me so self conscious and so focused. It makes me not want to talk. I can't look at myself a lot of the time. Like, even on my stream, like, once I'm sure it's going and I'm doing Topic Tuesday, I pull up another window for something like Google Chrome or something, and I minimize it, and then I put it over my camera, or over my little screen that shows me what my camera can see. That way I don't have to see myself. And it's why I can't do my YouTube videos, and why I've switched fully to Twitch, is I can't stand to listen or see myself. And dysphoria really does hit. It hurts a lot, and it's something I've tried to describe to cis people. Because, like, pre-transition, I didn't feel that much dysphoria. You know, it was kind of just numbness, like, oh, whatever, I'll just be who I am. Stuff sucks, I'll be fine. I can be happy like this, I can be good, you know? I described it as like, I have a perfectly good car, it works, I like it, it's my car, but I'd rather have this Lamborghini, you know? Um, it really is hard not to focus on those spots. But, you know, I'd rather have that brand new Lamborghini. And it was only recently that I realized, oh, I could totally have that brand new Lamborghini. You know, I saw people like Abby transition and stuff like that, and saw how much happier he is and how much he changed, and I was like, I want that. I can do that. I'm the only one stopping myself from doing it, and I would be happier that way. So that's why I started. But then once I started transition, suddenly I'm so focused on I gotta look like a girl, I gotta sound like a girl, I gotta do all this other stuff. Especially because I'm in the deep south and I have been harassed for not being feminine enough. I've gotten kicked out of a bathroom. I'm banned from a Walmart. It sucks. Which is a story for another time. All because I said bless you because someone sneezed and my voice didn't pass and I was in the women's restroom. And it's like, honey, I'm not peeping on you. I just want to pee. But like, it sucks. It really does. Having that dysphoria constantly control everything and constantly refocus everything on parts of you that you hate. It's terrible. And not even parts that you hate. Like I don't hate my boobs. I love my boobs. They're great. But like sometimes I just feel like, oh, they're not big enough, or oh, they just make me look fat, or oh, I just look like a fat guy in drag, or all this other stupid stuff, you know? It's constantly going, and it hurts really bad. I have found that one of my ways to stop it is by going full punk. I've been vocal about this in the past. I am very much a punk. Punk rock saved my life. The punk style saved me. Uh, as a kid, I was very suicidal. I hated society. I constantly had thoughts of like, oh, I don't belong here. Oh, all this stuff is terrible. Oh, blah, 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 right? And on top of that, also thoughts of God, wish I was a girl. And I was very suicidal. But one day, I I think I was like 14. I passed this guy, and he was covered in spikes and leather, and he looked dangerous. But he's sitting here talking to a group of people like he's freaking Gandhi or Jesus or something, delivering some next level shit onto them. Sorry for my language. And he's just going on of like, do what you want to do so long as it doesn't hurt anyone else. If you want to dress like a clown, dress like a clown. If other people don't like it, they can heck off. You're not hurting them. It's not their choice. Do what you want to do. And he just started laying down this next level stuff. And then he started talking about like how he doesn't wear spikes because, oh, I'm a bad, MFer. I can do all this other stuff. Look at me. Look how scary I am. He was like, I wear spikes because I'm a porcupine and I'm afraid. But no matter how afraid I am, I'm going to try and help other people. Because they might also be afraid and they may not have the spikes necessary to defend themselves. And just that guy, like, he gave me. I never really met him. But, like, he gave me so much hope. And he gave me so much courage. And that's whenever I just decided, you know what? So what if I don't belong? So what if I don't fit in? So what if, this world isn't really for me? I didn't ask to be here. And it doesn't freaking matter if, I fit in, if the world was meant for me, all this other stuff. I'm gonna stay here. And I'm gonna be happy. And I'm gonna have the time of my life. And if the world has a freaking problem with it, I don't give a shit. That's not my problem, dude. And so that's kind of how I look at the dysphoria, like we all have that awkward teen phase, like oof. I I was an awkward teenager, I was an incel. I grew up as a Nazi. I had all this stuff I had to unlearn. Like, yeah, my preteen years sucked. And like, oh no, I dropped a thing. Oh well, that's fine. But yeah, my teen years sucked. Exactly, if you don't fit in, make your own space. And I spent so much of my childhood. Sorry, I got this little octopus and I want to show it off. I spent so much of my childhood like this. Just angry and just like, I don't want anything to do with anyone. I hate life. I hate everything. Just leave me alone. And then suddenly I started being kind of optimistically nihilistic, where like, you know what? Nothing matters. We're all gonna die. No matter how much history you record, it's all gonna be forgotten eventually. I'm just gonna do my thing. I'm gonna have fun. I'm gonna enjoy myself. I'm gonna be a good person by my standards, not yours, Becky. And on top of that, I'm gonna try and do things in a way so that people that come after me don't have to struggle as much. They can have an easier time of it and they can focus on things I never got to focus on. And next thing I know, I'm sitting here like this all the time. I got a little happy smile because I'm so cool and cute. And I put my little heart collar on it. Ooh woo. Aw, hi Marith. Marith is freaking amazing. And I got a little hot color on it. And it's just using that punk attitude of like, you know what? Maybe I do have a bit of a stubble. Maybe I do got some arm hair. Maybe like all this other stuff. Maybe I don't sound exactly like a woman, but you know what? I'm trying and I'm getting better and I'm starting to be beautiful by my standards. I'm freaking hot, okay? I got a girl that has a massive freaking crush on me and thinks I'm sexy as heck. And she is freaking beautiful. Like, perfect 15 out of 10. I do not deserve her. Oh my god, go off queen level perfect. I'm fine. Karen, why don't you go over there and focus on your weird new kale, keto, whatever puree diet? I'm gonna go over here and focus on me. Okay? Like, I got this. I'm getting better. I'm gonna get to the point where I sound good to me, where I look good to me, where I am happy with me. Hey, Gray. And you know what? Plenty of women mess up shaving. Like, the whole expectation of having your arms shaved, your legs shaved, all this other stuff, that's societal BS. That is just blatantly sexist. Like, who the heck do you think you are demanding that women have to be fully shaved? Fuck you. Go off with your patriarchy BS. It's gonna be torn down soon enough anyway. We don't need you. And the robots are gonna come and kill us all anyway because of the singularity. So like, nah, I don't got time to worry about you. Um, so yeah. Mental health is freaking hard and it's something that plays a huge role in everyday life and it dictates so much of what we do and how we view ourselves and how we react. And I've found that my way of flipping it is by getting pissed. You know, like I'll be sitting there and I'll be having all these super depressing thoughts of, oh, I'm not skinny enough. Oh, I'm covered in hair. Oh, I sound like a guy. Oh, all this other stuff. And, you know, I'm getting so depressed. I'm getting so far into that darkness and I'm getting all this other stuff. And then I stop myself and I'm like, you know what? No. No. And I'm going to curse a lot more. So just a heads up. If you don't want to hear server mom cussing, you may want to tune off. But like, yeah, no, fuck that shit. We're not playing that game. You know, the voice that I'm using now sounds a lot better than this. I hated this voice growing up. I know a lot of people liked it. I was told I should go into radio. No, thank you. I do not like this voice. It sucks. It's terrible. Blah. So yeah, I'm gonna stick to this one. I like this one a lot better. It's a lot cooler. And if I start getting really dysphoric, you know what? Fuck it. Darn it, He-Man! Why won't you go on a date with me? Like, I can sit here and just make fun of it all freaking day. I don't gotta obey societal standards. I'm good. But yeah, like, get angry. It's okay to get mad. And I'm so tired of people trying to teach their kids don't have an emotional response. Like, no. Like, if your kid is down there getting angry and stuff and is upset, you don't tell them, hey, stop crying or I'm going to go home and spank you. Sit down with them. Look at them, talk to them, ask them, why are you upset? I took care of my two nieces for multiple years, okay? Um, and that is something that I learned very quickly was instead of getting angry at them, instead of being pissed, instead of being like, stop crying right now or we're gonna go home, I would sit down and I would just wait. Yeah, people would look at me weird in the store. People would whisper. People, fuck them. I'm not worried about them. They're not my nieces. I don't care. And I would just sit there and I would ask, what's wrong? Why are you acting this way? And they learned very quickly that they could be honest with me. They could tell me, I'm acting this way because I want this thing. And I'd be like, okay, let me explain to you why we're doing things the way we are, okay? You want this candy bar? That's fine, but we can't afford it, or we can't do this, or we're only here for this. Tell you what, if you stop crying, we can go home and we can make our own snack, you know? We got some stuff in the pantry, let's go home, let's mess around, let's make something that tastes terrible, but we had fun making, okay? And then we'll eat it anyway because we're low on food and we gotta make every calorie count, you know? Like, I made the best of a shit situation, being a freaking, basically a teenage parent. And yeah, like, I taught my nieces to communicate, to tell me what's wrong, and we never, it got to the point, they came to me and they had so many issues because they had been in a situation very similar to mine, very heavily abusive, full of drugs, sex, sexual trauma, all kinds of stuff, okay? And I understood that. And I know the pain that they're going through, and it hurts so bad. And it got to the point where, like, everyone else, it was like, oh yeah, they're such crappy kids, they're all this other stuff, they're so difficult, they're all this blah blah blah. And it's like, no, they're not. They are humans in pain. They don't have the experience, the amount of experience that some of us have because they haven't lived as long. It happens. Give them time and give them patience. It got to the point where if they had an issue, they would just come and talk to me. You know, it got to the point where they just weren't getting in trouble with me at all. And they had more or less stopped getting in trouble with everyone else because they had come to the point where they were like, okay, we can talk this out. We can be honest with what we want and what we need. And this other person is going to take us seriously and treat us like humans. And I think it's important to realize, especially if you're in an abusive situation, you are not broken, damaged goods. You are not an animal. You are not an object. You are not a robot. You are a person. And those thoughts and feelings you have, no matter how messed up they are, as someone who came from a super bad environment, who has violent thoughts and urges all the time that are very intrusive, and I've had to go through years of therapy to get under, well, not under control, but that I've had to go through to get them to the point where it's not a constant struggle. They're valid. I am not a terrible human being because I have those thoughts. It is not what intrudes into my mind that determines who I am. It's what I do. You could think about burning down a kindergarten for all I care. But so long as you don't do it, I mean, yeah, that sucks. Do you want to talk about it? Let's get you some therapy. Let's go talk about it. Let's figure out why you're having these thoughts. It's going to be okay. And I think it's important to tackle as many issues as you can in life like that. Saying that, you know what? No one got hurt. I didn't do anything bad. I'm going to be okay. And I just want you to know that you're valid. I want to talk about some things next, continuing about dysphoria and how it affects you, and being trans and the mental health that comes with that as opposed to other people. And I'm going to use some examples that were provided to me by Meredith, as well as some from my own life and some from Abby's life. So yeah, just a big thank you and shout out to Meredith, our wonderful mod from Tran. You are amazing, beautiful, and we appreciate you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so let's pull those up. So, first up, coming out to friends and family and the mental difficulty of that. So, I am on pants. Um, so my friend group is all LGBT. You know, there's Jay, who's non-binary, Abby, who's a trans dude, Morgan, who is asexual, and then Michael, who is our only cis hetero guy, which is funny because he is such a stereotype. Now, Marith recently had to come out to her friends, and she was terrified, even though, you know, several of them are openly LGBT friendly, because you never really know. Baby, hey, hey, mommy is streaming right now. Give me that. That's a necklace. You're not supposed to be playing with that. You're not getting it back. No. No. No, you're not getting it back. Um, nope. No, scream all you want. You're not getting it back. Your tail is tangled. Okay, but yeah, it's difficult coming out to people because you never really know how they're gonna take it. Um, and just because they're trans or LGBT doesn't mean that they're gonna be friendly. I used to have this person that was a friend who was a trans guy, and he seemed super cool. He seemed really, like, nice. But then one day, while we're chatting, he talks to me about other trans people. And I find out that for him, the only valid trans people are trans guys and non binary AFAB individuals. You're not getting the necklace. Um, so yeah, for him, those were the only valid trans people. He didn't think that trans women were really valid. He didn't think that non-binary trans AMAB individuals were valid. One sec, I gotta cough. Yeah, okay. Yeah, he sucked. Um, for him, basically, you weren't really. He viewed AMAB individuals as all inherently predators. He viewed trans women as basically getting a ton of special treatment. He went on this huge tirade about, like, how your life can be terrible, but then you become a transgender woman, and bam, suddenly you're brave and strong. And it's like, oh, you were a pedophile? Oh, it's fine. It's okay, honey. You were just trans. And it's like, bro, that's not how any of this works. What are you going off about? That's not. What? No. And. Yeah, exactly. Um, but this guy, he just went off on this. And it's like, imagine if he and I were still friends whenever I came out. Imagine me knowing this trans guy and thinking, oh, he's going to be accepting. He's going to be caring and compassionate and patient. Because he's a trans guy. He knows what it's like. He knows what I've been through, you know? And I had come out to him as a trans woman. Imagine what that would have done for my mental health. And it can be terrifying, which is why I always recommend to test the waters before coming out for your own safety. You know, ask them what they think about transgender rights, ask them, you know, how they feel about all this other stuff, and use an example of, oh, you know, I have this friend who is like this. How should I respond? How should I act? How should I, you know, all this other stuff. No, you do not get the necklace. Baby, no. Um, and yeet the baby. Like, it can be terrifying. And then you got things like LGB drop the T. No, 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 no. You don't get the necklace, baby. You're gonna break it or lose it. And you've already destroyed so much of my new jewelry. Kittens, right? Um, Coming out can be hard. Like, I remember I work in a very LGBT filled community. My city is nearly 30% LGBT identifying. Um, and in my workplace, in surgery, about half of them are some type of LGBT. And still, whenever I came out there was like a small civil war happened, right? Like there were people that were defending me, people that were attacking, not me, but being transgender, but they were attacking me with it, like there was all this stuff. And I thought my place would be super safe to come out at, and it wasn't. I'm lucky that some of the most ardent defenders I have were people like my freaking awesome director, several of the charge nurses, these people that I've worked with for years that were themselves LGBT. And this moment that stuck into my head is this one nurse had made a comment about how, and after I came out, I had 3 people come up to me, and it turns out that I had already been working with 3 trans people, but they had transitioned before they came to work at the hospital, and they passed very well. So no one knew they were trans, right? Well, I see this nurse, and she's sitting here in this break room talking about trans stuff to one of these trans people about how, she wouldn't feel comfortable with me in the changing room, how she wouldn't feel comfortable with this or that, and all this other stuff. The whole while not even realize that the woman she's talking to is a trans woman that she's been changing with for years, almost a decade at this point. Like, we done exist. That's all there is to it. We're not going anywhere. We're not. And you act like every trans woman looks the same. And it's like, no, I remember what I looked like when I started transition. I looked like the stereotype. I look a lot better, and I've only been on estrogen for like 8, 9 months now. Like, I'm making progress. I got tits now. I grew them myself. Um, stuff changes. And discrimination sucks. And I want to talk a little bit about the discrimination that Meredith has faced, because she told me about some of hers recently. And I know Abby has faced some. So, Meredith is currently in university. And with the way their system works, they have to find their own dorm mates, right? And of course, I'm not going to be able to explain it 100% correctly. So, Meredith, my apologies. But basically, Meredith had to send out a whole bunch of things like, hey, I'm looking for a dorm mate. Here's what I need in a dorm partner. Here's, all this other stuff. Here's some stuff about me. Ow, claws. Get up. Get up there. Frick. Oh, that hurt so bad. Ugh. Okay. I got muscles. Ugh. So, yeah, she started telling a bit about herself, and I guess, from what I'm understanding, she got kind of an average reply. But then she starts openly telling people, hey, by the way, I'm trans. And even though she may not directly be getting a different kind of reply, just the radio silence, the knowledge that some of those are going to be, some of the reason now that she's getting radio silence is because of her being trans and people not wanting to interact with her and all this other stuff, right? and that knowledge hurts, the dysphoria kicks in and is like, oh, they don't want to be with you because you're trans. And like all this other stupid stuff, it kicks in and it hurts really bad. And there has been discrimination like that, you know? If even one person would have said, yes, I'll be your dorm mate, but now decides against it because she is trans, that has hurt her future. That is discrimination. And that is something that Abby has also had to deal with. The fact that, like, some people have found out that he's trans and have treated him differently for it. Have treated him negatively, worse than they would have for it. And, you know, you can be discriminated against in ways that are very gaslighty. Like I was talking about the other day, last night, like that guy at my work who was saying some stuff in such a way that if you had called him out on it, he would just reply with, oh, you can't even ask questions anymore. You can't even really do this or that. You know, I'm just trying to understand. Why are you attacking me? That BS. And it's the same kind of guys where, like, if you make a comment about, oh, women in the workplace are being harassed, here are some protections, they'll make comments of, like, oh, so what? If I want to hug my female coworker, now I'm going to get fired and sent to HR and sued into oblivion? Like, no, dude. Me and my coworkers hug all the time, even whenever I did pass and act like a guy. Like, dude, just ask. If they say no, don't hug them. If they say no every time, maybe you should stop freaking asking. You know, like, think a little bit. Think, Mark, think. And I just, you know, you can have subtle ways of being phobic that sucks and are just as bad for your mental health. Something that gets to me a lot is when people use identifying language for trans people as a way to downplay us. Because everything they're saying is technically true, but you know that their intent behind it is not true. It's not helpful. Like for instance, this one guy that I work with who I hate being around, and he made a comment of like, "Oh, you can identify however you want, you know, like I'll support you, you can identify in whatever way you want, however you want, you know, be whatever you want. I got your back, I support you, all this other stuff." And it's like, dude, I'm not you're treating me, you're infantilizing me is what it is. You're treating it like this is a choice. And it's not. You know, the only choice I'm making is whether or not I want to be out and open about it, which I do because I want other people to see me and I want them to not have to deal with the stuff I had to deal with. I'm not out here trying to be like, look at me, I'm trans, give me special treatment. I'm out here saying, look at me, I am trans, I'm valid, and if you're trans, I want you to see me. Because I didn't see people like me, and it made me afraid. And it made it hard. And there are just so many ways that people can be discriminatory without realizing it. That's one reason why all these people get so defensive whenever you call them out on racism and stuff, and they're like, there's not a systemic issue with racism. You're just a snowflake. Go back to your safe place. Ha ha ha. Meanwhile, I'm gonna go listen to Fox News tell me that I'm perfect. It's like, bro, nothing is black and white, my guy. Chill, relax, it's gonna be okay. You get to keep your gun, okay? I don't want to take your gun. I have a gun. I don't want my gun taken away. Relax. Okay? Relax. Breathe. Not everyone is coming to get you. The aliens aren't gonna probe you. You're gonna be okay, my dude. Just breathe. Um, And just there is discrimination and it sucks. Because, like, I've noticed since I came out at work, I used to be the person they called whenever they needed heavy lifting, the person they called when they had a violent patient that they needed someone to sit with, because they knew that I had a knack for keeping them calm. I had a knack for connecting with people and letting them feel heard and loved and validated and not alone. And it helped with those kinds of patients and those kinds of situations, you know? And I liked being in those situations. As weird as it may sound, yes, it got me hurt a lot. It's got me punched in the face a time or two. But I liked being there for those people. I liked knowing that I had helped them. I liked seeing this person who was paranoid, violent, and all this other stuff be calm around me and start to heal because they trusted me. Because I had assured them that the psychologist, the doctor, all these other people were just there to help. And even though they didn't believe it, they trusted me. Since I've come out of trans, I've not done any of that. No one asks me to go in and take care of the violent patients. No one asks me to go and do all this other stuff. No one. Yeah, I've had that stuff taken from me. Now, if we have a trans patient, they always ask me to be the one to transport them to do all this other stuff. And I remember having a nurse, or not a nurse, another transporter say to me, "Hey, I need you to go get this patient." And I asked them why, and they said, "Well, on the chart it says that this patient, even though on their ticket it says that they are AFAB, it says that this patient wants to use he, him pronouns." And I'm like, okay, and just use he, him pronouns. I mean, the dude's gonna be fine. Just what's up? And they were insistent, like, no, you need to get this person. Why? Well, because I don't want to mess anything up. All this stuff is super confusing and weird, and I don't get it, and I don't want to mess anything up, and, you know, and it's just like, what? It's not, just, the guy's just a dude. Like, how would you transport any other freaking guy? Like, hi, my name is X. I'll be your attendant. Here's what I'm going to do. We're going to go onto an elevator. 2 bumps getting on, 2 bumps getting off, 3 bumps after that. I'm bringing you to PACU or pre-op or endo or wherever. Are you cold? Do you want a blanket? Do you have any questions? That's a wonderful question. I can't answer that. Here's the person who can. You know, like, go through your spiel, transport, drop them off, make sure they're comfortable, let a nurse know, and go do whatever else you need to do in the OR or in women's center or wherever else you are. Like, yeah, I just, how is that confusing? How is that? And like, I know these tactics because I used to be a Nazi. And something that I would spread whenever I was a little shitlord Nazi, whenever I was a little kid, is I would act like any minor thing was a huge issue. Like, oh, this person wants to be treated as an equal. What's next? This and this and this, and if I accidentally say this, I'm gonna be killed? It's like, no, you're not. And it's just like the tactic that the guy at work is using. Like, him being like, oh, I'm so afraid if I mess up your pronouns, I might get written up or fired and then I won't be able to work. And I spent years getting this degree and I did this and that and this. And it's like, bro, like, that's not how this works. There are people here I've been working with for years. Literal people I started working with when I was a teenager. Back whenever I was brand new to the medical school and I was so afraid of everything. And I cried at my first day of work because that was the first time I had had a real brush with seeing someone like, yeah. And it was traumatic. Like, People that have taken me out for dinner, bought me groceries, that I've gone and sat with whenever they had a pet die. People that I literally went to, like, family funerals and events with because they didn't want to go alone. Like, people, right? That have known me intimately and deeply for years that still fuck up. They still misgender, dead name, and all this other stuff all the time on accident. It's not about the being misgendered, dead named. It takes time. It's a learning experience. What's important here is the respect. The fact that you're treating it like an infantilization. The fact that you're treating it like some big, huge boogeyman. And you're using it as a way to disrespect me. I misgender Abby from time to time. And whenever I do, I say, I'm sorry, and I move on, and I use his right pronouns. That's it. There's no freak out. There's no, oh my god, I'm such a terrible human being. I deserve death. I'm gonna be guillotined. There's none of that. Because I don't. I grew up with Abby. Literally, he was my best friend in childhood, and he still is now. It takes time. Mistakes happen. You don't get to gaslight me, my guy, and you don't get to gaslight others, and you don't get to convince other people that if they fuck up my pronouns, that they're somehow gonna get fired, and like I'm some crazy raging lunatic. Because I'm not. I'm just a girl trying to do her job and trying to live her life, because I got bills to pay. And that is a thing that people do, is they will try to make you look crazy, and they will try to make themselves look like the victims. It's a classic form of redirection. It sucks and it's stupid. And the easiest way to treat it is by treating them like the crazy person they are. Don't, go off and be like, oh my god, this person is insane. They need to be. No. What I do with him whenever he acts like this and he says these things, especially around other people, is I just look at him like, are you okay? Are you serious? And I check on him. I ask him, dude, are you okay? That's not how any of that works, dude. Are you okay? Like, if you need to sit down, you can go have a break. Like, I got some snacks in the fridge at work, my guy. You can have them. Just, I want to check on you. Are you gonna be okay? Like, I just treat him like the child he is acting like, you know? Confused, inexperienced, little stupid, because we all are. I know I was. I am. I still do very stupid things a lot just because I'm like, ooh, what is this? I'm gonna put it in my mouth. Oh god, this tastes terrible and my mouth burns and now I'm sick. Yeah. I've eaten a lot of soap that way. Um, I'm surprised I haven't died. Did you know lye can kill you? I didn't. It makes you bleed really bad. Yeah. Um, yeah, it sucks. And mental health is important. And of course, this is Topic Tuesday, so like, yeah. And in addition to that, something else that kind of sucks with the dysphoria is there are situations that are just worse in general by nature of being trans. Like, I wanted to see what the cat medicine tasted like, and there's a little bit left over. I had all the syringes nice and measured out for Mr. Michael. I just wanted to see. It turns out it tastes terrible, but it has a nice aftertaste. Yeah. Yeah. Lie does that. Um, so sadly, there are some things that are just a little worse due to nature of being trans. Like, for instance, me having to use my ID for anything. I still have my old ID. I haven't had a chance to get it updated with COVID and everything, and it's not out of date, so I've just kept it. Me getting alcohol is kind of a toss-up. Sometimes they glance at it and they're just like, oh, whatever. Sometimes they look at it, look at me, and they're like, trans? I'm like, yeah. And then sometimes they're like, hey, nice, you look really pretty, good job. And other times they're just like, oh. And then they hand it back to me and they kind of give me this once over that makes me feel freaking disgusting. And then sometimes they look at me and they say, this isn't you, give me a real ID or I'm calling the cops. And it's just like, okay, okay, I'll go ahead and go. I'm sorry, I'll go ahead and go. And it hurts. And this has happened a few times. Like whenever I was on vacation in South Carolina, I accidentally locked myself out of my room, so I had to go get a spare key. And I go up to the front desk, I tell the girl my name, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna need some kind of ID. And I give her my ID, and she goes to get the key, and then she comes back out. She has the key, but she's holding on to my ID, and she's like, you need to go get the actual person whose room this is. And I'm like, it is my room. That is my ID. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm going to call the person who rented out this room and I'm going to ask them, you know, to come up here and all this other stuff. And we might get the cops involved and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then she turned her back, so I swiped my ID and the spare key. Yeah. Uh, I mean, I opened my door and then I gave her the key back and no cops ever got called, so, like, I assume I'm fine. Yeah. That hurt a lot, and I cried in my bedroom after that. Or, well, in the hotel room. Being trans comes with a whole host of things. And you have people that go around and do all this stupid stuff, like, oh, you gonna go 41% yourself? And it's like, no, I'm not. But you know, people like you are part of the reason why that exists. And it's like, yeah, all these mental issues that we go through, it's not something inherently wrong with trans. The thing that's inherently wrong with being trans is the fact that my body doesn't match what I want it to be. And so I feel dysphoria. That is a valid thing. I don't think it should be diagnosed as a mental illness because it's not an illness. It's not, all this other stuff. But all this stuff that comes with it, a lot of that is societal. It is not a system of being ill. By those same standards, we could classify being a woman as an illness because women face discrimination and they face their own troubles and issues and they face a huge host of different types of mental illness for that. Like, oh, you grew up having a ton of sexist stuff shoved down your throat? You have depression? That's a symptom of being a woman. Oh, you are constantly having all these crazy ideas and stuff thrown at you of how you should be and look and act, and now you have an eating disorder? That's just a symptom of being a woman. Like, that's not how any of this works, nor is it how it should work. Which is why I refuse to even entertain any transmedicalist BS, especially because I'm a medical worker. I understand the nuances of all this stuff. Well, I understand them better than a lot. You are valid and you are loved. Just because society is being shit, just because all these other people are stupid, just because you face discrimination and harassment for being trans, doesn't mean that you are any less amazing, beautiful, and awesome. And it doesn't mean that you are any less deserving of happiness and respect and patience. I hope that whoever is watching this, whether it's right now as it's being recorded or in the future after I've uploaded it to YouTube, I hope that you choose to continue going on because I want you in this world. I don't know if I want kids. I am infertile by choice, for personal reasons, but I've been considering adopting. I would love for my children to grow up in a world where they get to see more trans people, where they get to see more vibrant people, where they get to see people being who they are. Because I am afraid of adopting kids or somehow having kids of my own and bringing them up in a world that is bad. And I want the world to be better for them. I don't know if my kids are going to be LGBT. I don't know if my kids are going to be mixed race. I don't know if they're going to marry people that are LGBT or of other races, religions, cultures, etc. I want them to know, however, that they are loved no matter what, that they deserve love no matter what, and that they and their partner deserve happiness. And if you're watching this and you're like, and you are like how I used to be, because I used to be a Nazi and I will never hide that. I want you to know that you can change and that a lot of that comes from fear. I was afraid of so much and I didn't want to face all of my mental issues, and so I buried myself in them. And I went to darker and darker places to justify my mental issues. Instead of dealing with my depression, my paranoia, my PTSD, I put the blame on everyone else and I used them to justify it, and I used them to push me even deeper so that I could be like, what I'm experiencing isn't bad. Look at how much worse it could be. Look at how much worse it's gonna be. And it hurt. It was a form of self harm. And it sucked. I am so much happier now. I still feel that fear. I am afraid of so much. I'm constantly afraid I'm going to be assaulted. I'm afraid that I'll lose my house. I'm afraid that my cats will die. I'm afraid that I will lose my job. I'm afraid of so much stuff. But I'm not putting it on other people anymore. I am taking responsibility for my fear. Oh, there's a new person over here that has a different way of life, different ideas, different thoughts, different other stuff. I am afraid of that. I am afraid of change. I am afraid of new stuff. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to take control of it and responsibility of it. I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to ask them to teach me about their ways and their culture. And I'm going to humanize them and befriend them and understand them. I may not like them. There are plenty of people I hate, but I'm going to understand them. I hate conservative ideals. I don't hate the people themselves so much, but there are definitely conservatives as people that I hate and find abhorrent. But most of them are just misled. I've never met anyone, now that I've opened my mind up and stopped relying on fear to justify anything, I've never met someone yet who I hate because of their skin, culture, or any of this other stuff, because after getting to know them honestly, and without letting my fear be the lens through which I interpret everything they do, turns out they and I have a lot in common. Turns out we're a lot more alike than we are different. And it's really freaking cool. So if you're watching this and you're having anti-LGBT thoughts, all this other stuff, I just want you to know that, like, if you want to talk, we can talk. Don't come at me hating me. Don't come at me, hey, I just want to talk and let you know that you're wrong and that you should kill yourself and that blah, 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 and all this other. If you do that, I'm just going to block you. But if you come to me and you honestly say, hey, here are my thoughts and ideas on transgender stuff, do you want to talk and get to know each other? I'm going to say yes, and I'm going to talk to you, and I'm going to try my best to befriend you and humanize you. That way you can see me for me, and hopefully come a little bit closer to me, to where I am now. I don't care who's watching this. I love you. And I want you to be happy, and I want you to know that you are deserving of compassion and respect and patience. Please take care of yourself, okay? Especially mental health. Therapists are not evil, they just want to help you. Some of them are definitely misinformed, and you deserve good, well informed people to be your therapist. I love you. I'll see you all on the next topic Tuesday. By the way, if you want to support me and what I do, my server, my Twitch, all that other stuff, you can find my Patreon in the description and stuff like that for my